Alright guys, Wes here, welcome back to the channel. As you know, Starfield was one of the biggest Xbox game studio launches ever, and it was certainly Bethesda's biggest launch to date. The sci-fi RPG broke 6 million unique players just one day after the official launch, and while the Game Pass numbers are unknown, it's estimated that Steam version sold 5 to 10 million copies in its first month. So no matter how you want to look at Starfield, it was a success for Microsoft, and it's likely going to continue selling tons of copies a year and maintain a passionate following similar to previous Bethesda RPGs like Fallout 4 and Skyrim. But with continued success comes continued support, and quite a bit has come out recently about the future of Starfield and how Bethesda is going to approach this game's later years. We're going to talk about the Shattered Space DLC, as we do have a theory that could be mind-blowing to you guys, and there's been a recent shakeup at Bethesda that will have serious implications for the future of Bethesda Game Studios games. The first major piece of Starfield news that I want to go over is regarding a major player at Bethesda who recently announced their departure from the studio. Will Shin, who is the lead quest designer on Starfield, is leaving Bethesda after almost 15 years. Now, in addition to his work on Starfield, Shin's credit include Far Harbor, the DLC for Fallout 4, and a quest designer and writer on Fallout 4, Fallout 76, and Skyrim. This guy has been with Bethesda for a long time and has had a pretty big impact on the experiences we've played over the last decade. Now, whether or not you think games like Fallout 4 or 76 have the best quest design is kind of irrelevant, because this is a very high up creative at Bethesda walking away from the company after 14 years, which is a really big deal no matter how you think of the games that he worked on. Now, it didn't take long for people to start speculating the reason for Will Shin's departure. There are some speculating that it might be due to creative differences. Starfield's main quest was actually one of the biggest points of criticism, but was the criticism of the main quest the reason for Shin's departure? Absolutely not. It was likely out of a simple desire to do something new after working on a bunch of Bethesda games over the years, which is why he immediately announced that he was joining a smaller studio with previous Obsidian and Bethesda game studio designers on the new studio called Something Wicked Games, and Will is joining as their lead content designer. The fact that he had a job lined up right away kind of shuts down the theory of this being due to creative differences, but also it would have taken way more than some discussion around Starfield's main quest for the lead designer to leave like this. Starfield's main quest may have been criticized, but the game was still a roaring success critically and financially. I personally enjoyed the main quest and I loved his work on Far Harbor, so I wish nothing but the best to Will Shin, and I look forward to seeing what they make next. But on the topic of major changes over at Bethesda, there's been another shakeup you probably heard about, and that was the legendary Pete Hines is also announcing that he is leaving Bethesda after a whopping 24 years of service. Pete Hines was the head of marketing and communications for Bethesda from October of 1999 all the way to November of 2022, at which point he became the head of publishing. Obviously, Pete Hines wasn't let go or fired or anything like that. Rather, he simply decided it was time to hang up his cape and rest. He posted a heartfelt announcement on Twitter on October 16th declaring his intention to leave the company, and it made it clear that it was a personal move, to which he said this, and I quote, "After 24 years, I've decided my time at Bethesda Softworks has come to an end. I am retiring and I will begin my exciting new chapter of my life, exploring interests and passions, donating my time where I can, and taking more time to enjoy life. This was not a decision I came to easily or quickly, but after an amazing career, culminating in the incredible launch of Starfield, it feels like this is the right time." Pete continued by saying, "This is certainly not goodbye by any means. My love of Bethesda and its people has never wavered, and I will never stop being a part of this incredible community we have grown, and thank you to the hundreds of thousands of fans." Pete Hines was a legend and definitely deserves a break after being a part of so many huge game launches. You've definitely noticed by now that this is quite a lot of movement at the top of a company at Bethesda's size, and while I don't think this was a part of a conscious decision, I do think a lot of longtime Bethesda members were looking for a good time to step away. Bethesda games take a long time to develop, and after Starfield got out onto the shelves, I'm sure there were at least a few Bethesda members that had been considering leaving the company, now seeing the opportunity to tap out before Elder Scrolls 6 goes into full development. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that I don't think Bethesda is going in and laying off a bunch of people or making major changes like this, like a lot of people have theorized. I think people are just deciding whether or not they want to head out before committing to the all systems go development of Elder Scrolls 6. Moving right along, let's go ahead and talk about Starfield again. Recently, there was an XP glitch that was discovered, and frankly, it was only a matter of time until something like this started spreading around the internet like wildfire. According to a player on Reddit, the planet known as Schrodinger 3 is basically one giant XP farm. Something about the enemy spawns here make it ridiculously easy to just stand on top of your ship and fire down at hordes of little XP dispensers. One video going around on Reddit showed a player getting thousands of XP super quickly, so if you're looking to level up stupid fast, be sure to take advantage of this exploit before it gets patched out, because there's no way Bethesda is going to allow this XP farm planet to stay in the game once the right people are made aware of it. Speaking of updates, there has been a lot lot of discussion over when the next Starfield patch will be going live. The last update that we got was on October 9th, and it was a relatively small patch compared to the number of things that Bethesda has promised fixes for, as well as new additions to be added to the game. Now, I'm sure the next update will provide extra performance improvements and stability, and also fix a bunch of quest blockers that were frustrating for the fans. There's still a number of additions that people are still expecting and waiting on, so it's hard to say when the next title update or content drop will actually happen. I'm expecting this patch to drop sometime within the next week or two, definitely by the end of October, but it likely won't add any new content or anything like that. It will probably be just a bunch of technical improvements. But for those of you that have been playing Starfield that are having issues, the next 3 to 5 patches will likely make the game more enjoyable and immersive, so I'm not complaining at all. Now, if you're waiting on new gameplay content to be added to Starfield, you'll likely have to wait until the Shattered expansion DLC to eventually release, which I'm guessing will be sometime next year. According to leaked documents within Microsoft, they revealed that the company was planning on staggering the release of Starfield and its first expansion by 9 to 12 months, so I'm expecting Shattered Space to drop sometime in the summer or fall of 2024. Now, as for the direction that it's going in, I'm expecting it to continue on where the main story leaves off, as opposed to being something that takes place in the middle of it. With how many main quests and side quests there are in Starfield, I'm guessing that Bethesda is going to want to play it safe and have the DLC be a continuation of the main quests. Otherwise, they would have to come up with a story that wouldn't contradict all of the main story and side quests that are already present in the game. Making the DLC a sequel to the main quest makes the most sense from both a storytelling standpoint and a logistical one. Now, there's also a pretty interesting theory going around regarding the Shattered Space DLC, and without getting into spoilers for the main game, it suggests that there's actually going to be 2 different realities in the game. An extremely long and detailed post on the Starfield subreddit by user Seraph Gray lays out how this may happen both mechanically and story-wise, and they make a pretty good argument. I'll leave a link to the entire thread in the description, so if you'd like to read it through, spoiler warning though, it's pretty awesome, and it would essentially mean your first playthrough will be in one reality, whereas the second playthrough will be in a completely different reality, and that's where the DLC eventually picks up. And since there are actually references to this being possible hidden throughout the base game, it would be a pretty interesting direction to go in, and it wouldn't contradict anything already in the lore. I don't know about you guys, but I'm totally on board with this if it ends up being legit. In the thread, they said this, and I quote, "Starfield has a mission in the game, a main story mission. Now, if you've not beaten the main quest, I recommend not watching this part because there are some mild spoilers, but nothing too crazy. But in Starfield, there's a main quest that requires the player to constantly travel between 2 realms of reality. They said this is a common science fiction trope on its own, but when taken into consideration how Starfield is built, as in hard-coded backend built, it makes a lot of sense to go this route eventually." The theory continues by saying, during this mission, the player can click on a little temporal aspects of the universe to travel between the current universe's laboratory to the burnt version reality of the same lab in an almost instantaneous fashion, with little to basically non-existent loading. One version of the reality is safe, populated, clean, while the other is barren, full of deadly alien life and more toxic environment hazards. With Shattered Space, we could see the alternate reality be fleshed out completely, allowing you to play through the entire story in that horror reality. The thread continues by going on to say that it's been known that Shattered Space is likely going to be quite a sizable one, and it has been in development for some time. And if we couple that with the fact that Bethesda has gone on record saying that this game will be supported for far longer than any other Bethesda games in the past, it's not completely out of the question that there could be 2 entirely separate realities in Starfield eventually. Now, this is obviously one theory by someone on Reddit. The general consensus is that Shattered Space DLC will involve the House Faroon, but this new theory is actually pretty convincing. But what do you guys think? Do you think Shattered Space is coming next year, or do you think Bethesda is going to take some more time with it? And do you believe that the theories that the DLC is essentially creating 2 in-game realities are real? Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section. Also, let me know what your guys' thoughts are on all of the major shakeups happening at Bethesda, with Pete Hines and Will Shin leaving the company. Will it have huge effects on the company going forward? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe to the channel with your notifications turned on so you don't miss out on any future videos. I apologize for sounding a bit sick. I'm kind of under the weather, so hopefully I'll be back to 100% soon. Thanks again for watching this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and until next time, this has been Wes, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.